My fellow humans, what is up? Your brother from another mother, Colin. I'm the host of the Better Human Podcast. I mean, whatever. You're listening, you know who I am. And if you don't, then just listen to my thoughts. You don't have to know who I am. You don't have to agree with my every word or whim or idea. You just need to get value where you can get it. As the Bruce Lee quote goes, absorb what is useful, discard what is useless, and add what is uniquely your own. I believe that's the quote. I'm sitting here recording, doing some videos. You know, life is good. We're alive. You're listening to this, you're alive. And that's great because a lot of people aren't. I mean, the majority of humans aren't alive, actually. Let's talk about happiness. And let's talk about the big misconception around it. Now, most people don't think about happiness. They don't have a strategy for it. They don't cognitively think about it. They don't have like awareness around it or how to get it, or maybe that they would even want it. Some people convince themselves they want to be happy or they think they want to be happy, but they don't actually do things to be happy. They actually actively sabotage themselves and do things that make them stressed and unhappy. Or they chase money or this or that or whatever. And when they don't get it, they're unhappy. And then when they get it, they might have a temporary high and then they're out chasing again. And that's more of the dopamine-driven hedonic treadmill than it is happiness and contentment. So happiness is a much bigger, broader, deeper, meaningful thing. And it requires some thought. It requires effort. It requires techniques and strategies and figuring out for yourself. It really does. So let's talk about this real quick. People mistakenly believe happiness is just about positive thoughts and positive actions. The more I've learned and the more I've experienced, because I verified this for myself, every positive thought essentially holds within it a negative thought. It is a contrast to something negative. The Tao Te Ching says this more articulately than I ever could, but it's all duality and polarity. If I say I'm happy, that means I was sad at some point. If I say he's attractive, then someone else is unattractive. Every positive thought has a seed of a negative thought within it and vice versa, which is why a lot of greatness in life comes out of suffering. You have to view the negative before you can aspire to and appreciate the positive. Now, this is the duality of life. I've talked about this quite a bit. The Tao Te Ching is something we should all read. There's multiple translations. Listen to an audible, read it, whatever. Read quotes by Lao Tzu, who is the unknown writer of the Tao Te Ching, and start kind of grasping, internalizing the idea of duality. Everything in it is defined by the other thing. Night is defined by day and vice versa. Hot is defined by cold and vice versa, meaning if you don't know what cold is, you don't know what hot is. And if you don't know what hot is, you don't know what cold is. They are exactly correlate. They are exactly connected. Happiness is the same thing, which is why this word itself is bothersome. It's complicated. It needs more of an unpacking. There's so many forms of it. And there's different forms of it for different times of your life. And contentment for some is happiness. And fulfillment for some is happiness. Doing hard things for some is happiness. Getting into a flow state, creating things, building things, getting attention. There's a lot of different forms of this. And it's very hard to delineate because it's so personal. Some people care very much about getting the approval of others. I don't care about that. I'm sure it feels good to get it. And when I do get it and I'm recognized, it does feel good. It's a little dopamine high, but it doesn't sustain me. It doesn't motivate me. And when I get it, it's very fleeting. So it's not really something I optimize my life for. We get into the what is external, what is not when we're talking about happiness. And so even something like, external validation can be problematic because it's just like anything else. Like, okay, if you don't care about external validation, but you need to make a lot of money and you use that to fill the gaping hole in your chest, because you think it's going to make you happy and then it doesn't, right? It's just another form of external pursuit. That being said, some people do genuinely get satisfaction out of, let's say, making money, the game of making money. Maybe out of the game of spending money and the game of investing. So then it's not necessarily about the money itself. Like if you have money, you just stare at it in your bank account. It's not really bringing you joy, but it's what you can do with it that brings you joy. Or it's the game you're playing that brings you joy. So you have to understand the duality. When you say, I'm really, really happy, or I'm really happy, and you connect it to some external thing, what you're also saying is that without this external thing, I'm not happy, or maybe I'm even miserable. And you got to be careful with that because you start defining your life and the happiness that you get based on these things. Well, guess what? They're not permanent. And so you will default to being unhappy. That's why you have to be careful with this. Whereas if you go for contentment, for simplicity, for removing suffering, and then you have a baseline of a calm, collective, simple life, then everything built on top of that foundation can be joyful, and that can then contribute to the default state of happy. And like Naval talks about in this book, he feels that, so this is what he says, we are highly judgmental survival and replication machines. We constantly walk around thinking, I need this or I need that, trapped in the web of desires. Happiness is the state when nothing is missing. When nothing is missing, your mind shuts down and stops running into the past or future to regret something or to plan something. In that absence, for a moment, you have internal silence. when you have internal silence, then you are content and you are happy. Feel free to disagree. Again, it's different for everybody. This is also what Buddha believed. He believed that if you were living in the past or the future, or otherwise stuck in your head, ruminating on something, that you were suffering. And so his entire thing was, you need to be in the moment, you need to meditate and be mindful and do things like that to get out of your head as much as possible. Some people just want to get into flow, and they use sports, or they use gaming, or they use, on the negative end, maybe drugs and things like that. They're trying to escape their mind that way. I would say there's definitely better ways to do that come with less side effects. Like obviously meditation and mindfulness is really good for you, whereas doing drugs and getting drunk all the time is not going to be good for you, right? So use your judgment here about the best vessel for accomplishing that. But it's fundamentally the same thing. You're trying to accomplish a state of removal, a state of calm, a state of peace. And for most people, because they're living in such a hectic, always on, always distracted, always worried mode, getting to a calm state is happy. Because the not calm state is so tumultuous that just getting rid of that makes them happy. So that's just something I want you to think about when it comes to happiness. I got a lot of other shows on this. I'll cover this more. It's a big topic. I think purpose, mastery, flow, doing work that matters, friends and family, community, obviously exercise in nature, because that's the biological side of making sure your brain operates the right way. And I don't think you can be truly happy if your body and your biology is all messed up. So you definitely got to get the health right. But these are all things that are part of happiness. And they're all things that contribute to either making you easier and more likely to be happy, or making it really freaking hard or near impossible to be happy. And I hope you'll want to be happy, and I hope you find happiness. I hope everyone does. I think it's going to make the world a better place. And that very much aligns with the purpose and my mission of building better humans. The more better humans we have, the better world we have. If you want to support the show, head over to wildfoods.co and use code WILDCEO for 15% off your entire order. Real food, supplements, and foods for better humans. You want premium fuel that you don't have to worry about where it comes from. You don't have to worry about if there's anything not supposed to be in it, if it's clean, if it's pure, and whether it's going to help you or not. Wild is as pure as it gets, and it's what I use and give my family. That's the highest standard of quality that I know. Wild CEO over at wildfoods.co. Subscribe on your favorite podcast app or YouTube, and the Better Human newsletter over at colin.coach. And I'll see you in the next one.